Welcome everybody to episode 5 of Boxing Book Club. Hope everybody's well. I've just got back from Poland where I've been at the Youth World Championships for the last couple of weeks, watching the next generation of stars come through on the international amateur scene, which has been great. Just superb to watch all these fighters from all over the world. India had an amazing tournament in the women's. The men's was dominated largely by Cuba, Kazakhstan, Uzbekistan, Russia, Ukraine, the kinds of powerhouse nations that you would expect. So thoroughly enjoyed that. But on to today's recommendations, and one is a book that I took with me to reread because it's written by somebody me and Matt have got on the podcast coming up this week, and the book is Once Were Giants, and this is written by Jerry Eisenberg, who is a bona fide don of boxing writing. He's been around for a long time, and he picks out here seminal moments in the heavyweight division from the 60s onwards, because he was there. He was there, and he can give you his insight and his anecdotal evidence, if you like, stories around those encounters. And it's just a really, really good read. A really good read. Some of the things he picks out, you'll feel sometimes maybe like you've read so much on those episodes that you don't really need to read anymore. But you do need to read this. You do need to read this. It's being re-released. That's how come Jerry's coming on the podcast. And you'll enjoy it. Absolutely, you'll enjoy it. Recommendation number 2, Making Hay. So I used this quite exhaustively almost when we had Adam Booth on the podcast a few weeks ago. I'll say exhaustively, it wasn't in any way exhausting rereading this book. It was an absolute pleasure. Written by Elliot Wurzel, chronicling his journey with David Hay and Adam Booth from the early days, all through the glory nights. It's fly on the wall, and it's just very, very well written. Really well written. His recall for things that happened is superb, and it's one of those books you just kind of race through because you just want to know what happens in the next instalment of the story. Even if you think you're familiar with David Hay's career, there'll be loads of stuff in here that you didn't know, and it was a really interesting journey that he and Adam Booth had, particularly in the early days. So I definitely recommend that you read this. And this one just kind of winked at me when I was looking through the bookshelves. Blood Season by Phil Berger, and it's about Tyson. Not exclusively about Tyson, it brings in other things, but it's mainly about Iron Mike. And of all the books written about him, this is definitely one of the best. And there have been plenty of course, but it's just a very, very good read. It was recommended to me during the first lockdown, so this time last year when I started that Boxing Book Club on Twitter. I hadn't read it, and Dougie Fisher from The Ring, he put it out there. Terry Dooley was another one. Then quite a lot of other boxing writers and journalists jumped on it and said, "Oh yeah, absolutely, you must read this. You must read this." So I did, and it's great. So I would recommend that you do the same. So those are the three I've got for this week. Once Were Giants by Jerry Eisenberg, Making Hay by Elliot Wurzel, and Blood Season by Phil Berger. I'll be back with another 3 next week. In the meantime, get involved in the comments. Give us some of your recommendations, and have a good week.